a lot, now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Tables turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep feeling it.
What is going on, people? What's going on? You already know what time it is, man. We're back again, trying to get these knocked out of the park. We're here with another Scout Watch, and today we're looking at Florentino Luis of Benfica. Before we even obviously dive in, guys, please, as always, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are brand new. So, as you guys already know about the Scout Watches and stuff like that, just taking a look at maybe a player that might have been linked by Liverpool, player who Liverpool might have on their radar. And Florentino Luis, I think he's a player that has been on the radar for a very, very long time. I think Liverpool had been looking at him a while back. But to my knowledge, though, the quoted price was actually quite high. If I'm being super honest with you, it was... I think it was his release clause, to be honest, that had to be paid at that time. Whether that's just because, Benfica just felt that, it was just one of those kind of things, maybe so. But, recently the news has come out that he might actually be available, as you guys can see on the screen, for a cut price of 25 million. So that brings us to, obviously, to today. Defensive midfielder, can play in a pivot alongside someone usually been playing alongside Enzo Fernandez, but obviously he moved to Chelsea. He's now playing alongside João Neves. Different, quite. João Neves is relatively similar to Enzo Fernandez. Obviously, Fernandez has that quality. João Neves, I would actually say he's probably a little bit more attack-minded actually than an Enzo Fernandez, but that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk about Luis. Of course, Liverpool are looking for a defensive midfielder, someone who can obviously occupy, that double pivot position, someone who can also potentially play in a six by themselves. Now, we're linked with everybody, Kone, Khéphren Thuram. By the time this video comes out, will we have that Khéphren Thuram deal done? Hopefully so. But if not, there's obviously him, Gravenberch, and obviously Viega for that, more of a attacking third, position. But the Gravenberches, the Kones, and the Khéphren Thurams, that's the kind of mold of player that we're looking at. And again, Florentino Luis, he's not old. I think he's about 23 years of age. And again, he's another player who isn't at that top level yet, but again, might just be ready. He might even be in the same kind of bracket, if I'm being honest, as the Khéphren Thurams and stuff like that. Maybe potentially a little bit higher, but it kind of is what it is. He used to play for he was on loan at Monaco, and I believe it was Getafe. That might be wrong, but I think it was Getafe that he was on loan at. When he was at Monaco, he was there when Monaco had Tchouaméni and Fofana. Obviously, Tchouaméni has obviously gone on to play for Real Madrid. Wasn't really getting any game time there, to be honest with you. Couldn't really get in, to be honest. Tchouaméni and Fofana, they were the two midfielders that they were predominantly being used, by Monaco at that time. And obviously, you've seen, the two players and how well that they've actually done. So, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's been a player that's always been really, really good, and all of a sudden, now he's kind of getting his shine. I feel like now it's a case of in the last season, especially playing under Bruno Lage as well, he's been performing really, really well. And again, in that kind of double pivot position. If you look at here, his heat map, you can see the kind of positions that he does take up. In that double pivot, left or right-hand side, I think he's comfortable in both, to be honest with you, which is really, really good, because there might be games whereby, we may need him to play on that right-hand side, and we might be looking for different instruction from someone like him in that position. But he is obviously comfortable, would I say, more so, on that left-hand side. But again, don't sleep on him actually playing, by himself, in that position in the sixth role. You can see here 4-4-2 formation when Enzo Fernandez was still there, playing on that right-hand side of the right central midfield. And then obviously in a 4-2-3-1, again, João Neves playing alongside him, just behind the attack and in front of the defense. But again, he's more the defensive player, in that setup. And we look here in the 4-4-2, the way that kind of Benfica play it up, you can see the number 3 obviously is Luis, number 4 is then the next attacking player. So would be Joao Neves or Enzo, whoever that would be, at the time kind of thing, whoever's playing alongside him at the time. You can see how Benfica's fullbacks, they do push up quite high. And when they push up, what's really good and what I like about them is kind of what Fabinho used to do, is when those guys push up, Luis kind of drops back in and he'll almost form they almost form a three in front of the two centre backs. And then, they obviously just go from there and you've got the next midfielder just a little bit further up. But you can see that's kind of his box there. Won't really deviate too much from, from that position. Again, really, really good because we don't really realistically need, the defensive midfielder to come out of that area. If I'm being totally honest with you, again, this is all kind of things that Fabinho, kind of used to do, back in the day. So it is quite interesting, to see that, from him now. You look at how many games obviously played. Last season, 54 games, 3 goals, 3 assists, should I say? Sorry, 8 yellow cards. So someone who's going to put himself about on the pitch. Is that something that we're looking for next season? I don't really know. Again, like I said, I am as confused as everybody else in regards to the type of targets we're looking at, the players that we're looking at, who we want, who we don't want, kind of thing. So I am a little bit confused, but at the same time, I do feel like Luis is a good enough player to potentially, like 25 million. That is straight up FSG's, lane. So I feel like that might be a player that they would, potentially try and look at. If you're looking at his injury history, you can see here, I mean, they've only got these 2 injuries here, which is the coronavirus and a meniscal injury. Again, 9 games in the last, what's that, 3-4 years? That's really, really good availability. Again, he just hasn't really played that much when he was on loan, which is obviously unfortunate for him. Wasn't really able to get himself that many games. But again, coming back to Benfica, he's been really, really good. And again, he is that kind of midfield anchor. You can see here, talking about him here, style of play. So, crucially part of connecting their dynamic attack and solid defensive structure is obviously Florentino Luis, anchoring the midfield for Schmidt's side. Florentino, it has proved an intrinsic piece of the puzzle to Benfica's carefully crafted setup. Benfica have had a couple managers, by the way, since he went out on loan, since he come back and all that kind of stuff. Along with his defensive abilities, he's also known to have the ability to launch attacks with his interceptions and quick passes. This, along with the excellent ability to distribute the ball, illustrates his importance to Benfica's system, with the Portuguese midfielder playing a similar role to that of Sergio Busquets at Pep Guardiola. Someone who's able to recycle possession is kind of what I got, reading the scout reports about Florentino. Someone who's able to do that. And maybe in a team like Liverpool, where we're quite quick and rush and, everything is kind of moving at, 100 miles an hour, that might actually prove to be a good thing. If I'm being totally honest with you, that actually might prove to be something that we may actually need in the game, is having that defensive midfielder, someone who's able to just calm it down, via the way he plays. So again, with the intercepting, being able to cut off the passing lanes from the opposition and then being able to help to launch that attack, that might be something, again, I go back to it, something that Fabinho used to do. It hasn't done so, in a long time. The key component to understand Luis's style of play is the system employed by Bruno Lage. He uses a modern adaptation of a 4-4-2, which is high tempo and plays possession football. When in possession, fullbacks push forward and wingers move into the center, with one central midfielder pushing forward and Luis staying back. Obviously, as I showed before, with this graph, sorry, just literally that. So again, is that what we need from our defensive midfielder? Because even when I think about the Kones and the Gravenberchs, let's say as an example, you get one of those 2 in and you don't get a Luis. Having one of those 2 in there, I don't really, Kone maybe more so, I would say. Gravenberch, I don't really feel like that's an individual who is going to be there to cut the passing lanes, to try and intercept, to get the tackles in. I don't feel like he's there for that. I feel like those guys are dribblers. They like to be on the ball. They like to, start the build-up play and things like that. I'm not really seeing too much in regards to, how that would potentially work alongside another player who likes to do that anyway. I feel like we do need someone who's maybe who can break up play a bit more. Kone can do it. So, he has got that in his locker to be able to bring the ball forward. He's a decent passer of the ball, decent dribbler. But I feel like Luis, that's kind of what he's born and bred to do. The dribbling side of his game, not to say it's weak or anything like that, but that's not necessarily where his strengths lie. His strengths lie in the kind of doggy work more so. And I feel like that's maybe what we need a bit more. But of course, that might not be what Jurgen Klopp thinks, the team need. Looking here at Luis's reading of the game, the core of his talents in his defensive abilities and understanding of the game in a mental sense. In addition to his talents, Florentino's high work rate makes him an eccentric and tenacious force on the midfield of the Lisbon-based club. He uses various techniques to study his opponent's move before deciding to challenge for the ball. He tries to read his opponent's body posture, the pressure he is under, and what passing lanes he has so as to cut them off before eventually dispossessing those players. So again, if you take a look here at the picture, you can see he's the one that's circled. Boom. He knows exactly where he needs to go to be able to cut off that passing lane. He knows he needs to actually get in there quickly, because if you don't get in there quickly and that guy pops the ball off, the next ball is into the guy that, Luis is actually leaving behind. So it is a risk. It is a bit of a risk, but that's something that, he's going to try and, be able to do. And you can see here, intercepting play here again against Shakhtar Donetsk. I think this was maybe in the Europa League. So you can see this is the type of player, in my opinion, that he is, if I'm being totally honest with you. There are times, again, where he might find himself in situations where he might be a little bit rash. He might have, because he's tried to press a little bit too high. You can see here, Luis is obviously trying to run back because he's tried to push forward and press. Maybe that didn't win that tackle. So obviously he's got to try and get back in before they obviously get a shot off and things like that. So again, he has, like every player, they've got their weaknesses into their game, but he is a technical individual. He can pick out a pass. He is someone that I would put there at the base of the midfield to be able to stop attacks and help us launch forward. And he is comfortable enough in possession where I don't mind him being, say, a lone six as an example, as opposed to a Kone. I feel like they're maybe they're quite similar. Maybe they are, relatively similar, in terms of the style of play. But I just have in my mind Florentino Luis being a little bit more defensive, than a Kone. I feel like Kone wants to get himself forward more, whereas Florentino Luis has always played it, especially in that double pivot, whether it's Enzo Fernandez, whether it's João Neves, he's always kind of played it that let me stay behind, let me chill. I don't need to go kind of forward. We can kind of play without me being there, and then we can kind of move and play from there. So again, another player, another defensive midfielder, another individual that Liverpool may potentially look at. We don't really know. We'll wait and see. Let's just see. By the time that this video is obviously posted out, we'll see what players that we've signed. Do you guys think we should, be signing Florentino Luis? For those who've watched him a bit more extensively, is that a player that you wish Liverpool would kind of, go in for? Do you think we are fine getting a Kone, Thuram kind of thing? Is that your preference? Let me know, obviously, what you guys think in the comment section. That's Scout Watch, done and dusted. I'm G, and I'm out.